Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be breaking down yet another storm that's going to bring more snowfall to areas in the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic region, and as well as the Northeast United States tonight, all the way through Saturday morning. We'll also be talking about a massive pattern change that's coming to the United States next week that is going to warm up almost the entire country, bringing many areas near record-breaking temperatures. I'll be giving you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, and let's begin first with what's happening right now in the United States, and we will begin with the Northeast, and this is actually the first of two different snow events that are coming to the United States, and this one in particular is actually a bit smaller than the one that we're going to see tomorrow all the way through Saturday, but I do want to point out that this is not done yet. We are going to see more snow in the Northeast United States between now all the way through about midnight tonight as this swiftly moves off to the east, and then further back out to the west we need to watch this area of moisture back over in the Central Plains. That'll move off to the east tonight and eventually bring the potential for snow anywhere from the Midwest back into the Mid-Atlantic and even parts of the Northeast United States. Back over in the Southern Plains, notice a lot of cloud cover is building across areas in Texas, and this is all due to a lot of moisture surging from the southwest, and that's going to actually lead to some showers and even a few thunderstorms this weekend for very far parts of South Texas. We're really not talking about much, though, if you're back up in Oklahoma or Kansas. The shower and storm activity will be very minimal overall. Chances of rain are less than 20% for most areas. And then back over on the west coast of the United States, things fairly quiet overall. We do have a little bit of moisture trying to push its way into northwest California, but other than that, it's actually pretty quiet right now. So for the rest of the night tonight, we will have some snow moving through areas in New York over the next several hours. By 7 to 8 o'clock, moderate bands of snow will be possible in both New Hampshire, Massachusetts, areas like Rhode Island, and even back into Connecticut. Once we go into late tonight, into the overnight hours, this is around about 1 in the morning. Most of the snowfall is now across Maine and eventually into central parts of New York, where we could still see a few inches of snow there. And then as we go into the early morning tomorrow, most of the snow will start to fizzle out as this low pressure system actually begins to weaken a little bit. Now, in terms of total snowfall out of this particular event through tonight into tomorrow morning, actually a pretty good amount of snow is going to come to many areas in New Hampshire, Vermont, and even back through Maine. The ski mountains, they're definitely going to be very healthy with this amount of snow. We're talking many areas between 2 to 6 inches of snow. A few isolated spots in upstate New York or even in the higher elevations could actually get close to 8 to 10 inches of snow. Most of areas like Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, maybe a coating to an inch. Definitely not nearly as much as what we just saw a couple of days ago. All right, let's talk more about this next snow event that's coming to the United States tomorrow all the way through Saturday, and we're going to begin with the future radar. So notice this as we go into late tonight. A low pressure system will start to move across the Central Plains, a little bit of snowfall back up to the north of that, and that's really what we're going to be watching for as we go throughout the late night tonight into tomorrow morning, because we're going to start to see a bit more of a surge of moisture, and that will allow for a little bit more of moderate snowfall out of pockets of this disturbance. So by tomorrow morning around 9 o'clock or so, snow will start to pick up across Illinois, Indiana, and as well as Missouri. I'm going to be doing a very detailed breakdown on this here in just a second, but this is a broad overview of it. Once we go into around lunchtime tomorrow, that is when snow will pick up across areas like Ohio and even back into central Missouri. Wouldn't rule out a little bit of snowfall as far south as really far northwestern Tennessee. And then once we go into late Friday night, right around rush hour, that snow picks up in northern Kentucky, back into West Virginia, and even into Pennsylvania. Heavier snowfall, very possible in areas like West Virginia, Western Virginia, and as well as Eastern Kentucky. Those three particular areas actually could see some pretty heavy snowfall. With that being said, this is going to be a pretty quick moving system, so the snowfall overall is not going to really accumulate over a long period of time. It's going to be a quick little shot, maybe 6 to 9 hours or so, and that's going to obviously allow for some snowfall accumulation, but it will not allow for feet of snow in many of these areas. This is Saturday morning. Most of the snow is offshore. Only snow left will be in southern New England, where there will be a shot of light snow, but this is nothing in comparison to what we just saw a couple of days ago. Once we go further into the weekend, we're going to be watching for a lot of rain in parts of Florida and as well as back even into areas along the Gulf Coast with that surge of moisture. Next week, things very quiet for much of the United States. I don't really have much in the forecast for next week in terms of large winter storms or even any large severe weather events, but I do want to mention that it's going to get a lot warmer next week with all that being said. Now let's go region by region with this snow event, beginning with the Midwest, then we'll go to the Ohio Valley and eventually into the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic region, and we'll also be talking about the snowfall accumulation. Beginning with tonight, notice a little bit of light snow across areas like Iowa. A lot of the snow, for the most part, on the very far northern side of this, areas like Illinois, for example, it's going to be relatively light, but it'll be a bit fluffier due to the fact the temperatures will be closer to around 20 to 25 degrees Fahrenheit. That'll allow for many of these areas to have a little bit more snowfall with this light snow, but overall, the main core of the heaviest of the snowfall will all be wet snow back into northern Missouri and as well as central Illinois and even eastern Kansas. Once we go into tomorrow morning, this is around 9 o'clock, notice that snow starts to expand in size. It's going to become a pretty large snow event overall. Eventually, as we go late into the morning around lunchtime, notice that snow picks up across Indiana, Ohio, and as well as even into southern Illinois. Eventually, by about 3 to 4 o'clock, that snow is pushing into Kentucky, and eventually into the evening hours, that snow continues to push south and east. Also, notice if you're back over in the Great Lakes region, there will be some lake effect snow as we go into tomorrow night. That could lead to maybe an inch or two of snow if you're lucky, but for the most part, not any significant accumulation is in the forecast. In terms of total snowfall accumulation, most areas, again in Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, maybe 1 to 3 inches. A few isolated spots could see around 4 to 5 inches, but I think for the most part, the snow event is going to be very quick moving, and I don't really expect a winter storm here by any means. But it will be a little bit more likely that we see some winter storm characteristics back over further to the east where heavier snowfall is expected. So notice in the Ohio Valley as we go into tomorrow morning, again, most of the snow is off to your north. By the early afternoon hours, that snow is pushing into Kentucky. A lot of this will be heavy, wet snow. That means it's not going to accumulate very quickly, but with that being said, that's a lot of snow that's going to be falling. So there could be definitely some visibility issues on the roadways. Once we go into late tomorrow night, so around about 10 o'clock or so, most of that snow is pushing into eastern Kentucky and as well as West Virginia. And eventually, as we go into the early morning hours Saturday, we are done with snow across the Ohio Valley. So again, a pretty quick moving system. In terms of total snowfall accumulation, many areas are going to vary. For the most part, we're talking again about a widespread 1 to 3 inches of snow. Many areas in like Kentucky, for example, will get closer to 4 to 5 inches. I think 5 inches is pushing it a little bit. I think it'll be a pretty isolated amount, but notice back over here in areas like West Virginia and even back into southern Pennsylvania, that is where a lot more of the snowfall is going to fall, which could lead to maybe some winter storm impacts. And you'll notice this as we go into Saturday morning. Again, notice a lot of this is heavy snowfall overnight Friday night into Saturday morning. Moderate to heavy snowfall across West Virginia, Northern Virginia, Maryland, Delaware. We'll even have some snow in New Jersey as well. And eventually, as we go around about 6 a.m. Saturday, most of the snow is offshore, but there will be a little bit of a clipping there. If you're down in like southern Rhode Island or even southern Connecticut, perhaps even back into the Cape Cod area, there will be a little bit of additional snowfall accumulation. So when this event is all said and done, many areas over in West Virginia, mainly the higher elevations, will get into the ballpark of 3 to 6 inches of snow. There will be probably a few isolated locations that get closer to 8 inches of snow. And then for the most part, again, New Jersey back through Pennsylvania, 1 to 3 inches of snow. So for the most part, this entire event will actually mostly 1 to 3 inches of snow for most areas. But again, there will be a few isolated spots higher than that. Now, over the next several days, we're going to have to watch for a big weather pattern change. And this is all going to originate from after this cold blast moves through, which is actually going to move through tonight into Saturday morning. We're actually going to have some cold air from the southern and central plains back into the Great Lakes region. This will eventually move into the north and east as we go into Sunday, but notice a huge pocket of warm air is going to be behind this. And once we go into next week, there will not be very many storms in the United States. So overall, we will have the potential for seeing some record-breaking high temperatures stretching from the Midwest and southern Canada all the way back through the southern plains. So that'll definitely be something to watch out for. As of right now, no big storms though on the horizon. This would really be the biggest one I would say for the next week or so. Climate Prediction Center on board with this all the way through the end of February. Above average temperatures are in the forecast. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.